Northwest Indiana, Central Indiana, of course, and Southwest Indiana. We are thrilled that you're here for us, and we think in our mission of trying to help you go from where you are to where you want to be in your professional career, we believe the lineup that we have tonight is going to be spot on. So we're looking forward to us. At the end of this, there's going to be a nice survey for you to fill out. You tell us how well we did, because we really appreciate that. A few logistical things to get out of the way. First of all, of course, hey, if you've been newly certified in PMI, congratulations to you. We'd appreciate it if you drop your name in the chat so everybody can take a step up there and virtually applaud you. Congratulations. We also want to welcome across all 5 Indiana chapters anyone who's a new chapter meeting. If this is your first PMI event as a new chapter meeting, you picked a good one, that's for sure. Just a slight logistical thing about membership auto renewal. This is a tick mark, I think, in your profile setting at PMI.org. So be sure that you have auto renewal on, because there was some errors in that, I understand, last year, and you may want to double check that going forward to keep things smooth regarding your membership. You know, everybody wants to get back. We're looking, can we play sports? Can we have more than 2,000 people in a stadium? We're looking at these things on an ongoing basis as well, and we're hoping for some changes. We're keeping a close eye. Just stay tuned to communications from your various PMI chapters to see when can we get back to normal, hey? See each other in a third dimension. Alrighty, and I already mentioned that important survey that's there. Look over there in that orange box that's there. Oh, that orange box went away, but there it is. The orange box says, we are interested in all of our chapters, not just Central Indiana, all chapters, in being able to pick up additional volunteers to help things like putting on a program like this, for that matter, and many other things that PMI does for its membership. So if you care to volunteer or had ideas on how to make programs like this good, better, and great, we're interested in hearing from you. All righty. We do have a number of disclaimers and policies we follow. We put this slide up here for you to peruse. We ask that you follow these policies yourself. We follow these types of policies ourselves when we put on these programs. And one of the things I want to let you all know is the session is being recorded, and everybody should be aware when they're being recorded in something like that. So I want to let you know that as well. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to why you're here. Tom Dakich is proud to be a lifelong Hoosier. Having lived in 7 Indiana counties and been an attorney for over 36 years, much of Tom's career has been in construction and the data center industries. Tom's built data centers and completed technology transactions on every continent except Antarctica, apparently leaving something for the future. Tom firmly believes Indiana is the best place to live in the world, and that our state has the best public servants in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I can think of no one else more qualified to speak of the importance of public-private partnership than our first speaker tonight, managing member of Digital Crossroads, Tom Dakich.
Thanks, Rich. I really appreciate the time and the chance to talk to you. This is something I absolutely believe in. Indiana, in my opinion, Indiana is the best place in the United States to live. It's the best place to do business. I grew up in Northwest Indiana, went to Wabash College, went to IU Bloomington's Law School, lived in Indianapolis or Carmel and all that for 30 years or something like that. Been practicing law for 36 and all that. Every time I leave Indiana and do deals outside of Indiana, it's a whole different world than doing deals in Indiana. And one of the things we're going to talk about today, or a couple of things we're going to talk about today, is building a data center industry, how an entire state can do it, and not just one group, but how it takes mayors and city councils and most importantly the governor and the IEDC. So I was going to go through that and talk about the public-private partnerships. I appreciate everybody taking a minute away from making their brackets. I've made my bracket. I will tell you who I think is going to win what. In my entire life, I think I've been involved in brackets since Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. I don't think I've ever won. So but I will give you my brackets as we go on here. I have a brother who also is doing a bracket. I implore you not to listen to him because he knows even less than I do, but everybody thinks he knows something about it. So in terms of brackets, we'll push that back a little bit. But what we've done here in what my career has been for the last whatever years, 4 or 5 years, has been building a data center industry in the state of Indiana. We're a state that is in the crossroads of America. So we called our company the Digital Crossroad of America, paying complete homage to our heritage and where we came from. Before we go any further, there's in order to have a public-private partnership, I can have the private part and I can raise all the money in the world, but these 5 men and this group really made everything possible. And at the genesis and at the heart of any P3, I'll call it P3s because that's what we call it, is the support of at the top of the list, the governor of Indiana, Eric Holcomb, be a Democrat, Republican, vote for him, I don't care. But at the end of the day, Eric is, or Governor Holcomb has been a fantastic champion for doing things that are going to make Indiana better. A long time ago, Ed Soliday, who's a state rep, he's the head of transportation. He's very, very principled and forthright Hoosier. He and Mark Metzler and a bunch of other people who's also in the legislature. The two of them have been trying to pass meaningful data center legislation for 13 years. Todd Houston, who is now the Speaker of the House, but he was an important part of trying to develop, using our infrastructure here in Indiana and try to develop what the jobs and the technology and the ability to leverage our infrastructure to create a whole new industry. That, my opinion, was that the best place to do that was going to be as close to Chicago as you could possibly be. So the Mayor Tom McDermott is a fantastic leader, a fantastic advocate for the city of Hammond. The Hammond City Council came together and has supported all of our efforts at this point. So this first slide is an homage to I mean, there could be 150 legislators up there, but Governor Holcomb, who from the moment that we started this said, Tom, I want to build a data center industry here. Ed Soliday, I want to build a data center industry. The other 2 legislators, Representative Todd Houston and Mark Metzler, saying the same thing, but Tom McDermott really made this possible with his support. This is these slides are available. This is some mishmash about how important I am and all that. We can skip over that. So public-private partnership involves the public, and which we just talked about in Indiana. It's at the governor's level. The IEDC. The IEDC just had a change, or is having a change of leadership. Jim Schellinger has been an unbelievable leader. Has been part of thousands of deals that have been done here in the state. He has just stepped down really within the last week since I submitted these slides, actually. So we had to make a little bit of a change, but he's been a tireless advocate for Indiana and representing the fact that we are here and we're open for business. The public part also involves the gentleman that I talked to before and their willingness in those sorts of situations, their willingness to move forward, to help public or private companies spend the cash, create the jobs, and enact a vision that will be better for not only the municipality, but for the entire state. So there's an overlap between the public aspect, the public good, and the private aspects, which is kind of what I represented. So like I said, I live in Indianapolis. I work here. Our data center, we've raised now, as of next week, it'll be $300 million to put a data center where nobody's ever put a data center before. Nobody has ever, there are data centers in Indiana, and I'm not besmirching them, but ours is of a size and a magnitude that is remarkable. It's designed to create technology jobs and to get the biggest and the best companies in the world for the technology industry and to bring them to Indiana. We compete in Northwest Indiana. We compete with Illinois for jobs and customers every day. It's very easy for people, project managers even, to say, well, I want to go where other data centers are. I want to go where other industry are. It's easy to be next to a car dealership if there's another car dealership there. I mean, it's easy to basically say, I want to be next to one data center where there's another one. Well, there aren't any data centers in Northwest Indiana, and the data centers that are in Indiana are fine companies. I'm not saying anything negative about them. In fact, I'm applauding them and the work that they've done. But in order to develop the industry, we needed some competitive edge, because in Indiana we compete with the state of Illinois. So the first thing we did when trying to do this, when trying to create a data center in the state of this magnitude, was the first person I went to go see was a woman named Anne Hathaway. Anne is astute, and she recommended that we talk to the governor's office and the mayors and all those sorts of people. But then it became, how do you do that? How do you create a competitive environment? How do you use the public resources, the legislature, and our advantage as a state? How do you leverage that and make it such that we get our message out there? So when we did a diagram, we brought in some people from different areas of the country who were especially good at data center development and management, and we all determined that Representative Soliday, Mark Messmer, and and Todd Houston, their idea was correct, that we needed a sales tax exemption on equipment and energy. It was the first thing that we basically focused on, and it ended up making all the difference between whether we could get customers, large companies, to come here, and we couldn't, or we were going to fail. So creating a public-private partnership involving legislation is very complicated if you don't have a really good idea. You have to have an idea, and you have to have people willing to back it up. Getting a public-private partnership on a smaller, getting a small-scale project developed it doesn't require legislative changes. It doesn't require changes in our tax law. It doesn't require the Indiana Department of Revenue. Getting something done on a small, it doesn't require that, is a whole different topic, and I can talk about that at a later time. What I'm talking about is creating a data center industry, on how, as project managers, whether you're involved in construction or sustainability or resources or risk management, what our data center, I'm talking about doing it at the highest level, which is changing the rules for tax legislation in the state. And we cannot minimize, as professionals, regardless of which element of the process you're in, you cannot minimize the fact that you need to, how important it is to understand your topic and to make certain that when you're presenting, you do not have flaws in your prospect or in your project. We were fortunate that we knew Indiana was a fertile ground for a really important data center development. Explaining that to people wasn't enough. Bringing in potential customers, bringing in potential developers, bringing in people that understood the industry from a Arizona perspective, or from a Dallas perspective, or from a Loudoun County, Virginia perspective, and having them and educating key legislators and key influencers about what they did and how those companies, how the professionals in those areas use the Loudoun County, for instance, Virginia, which is the mecca for data center development in the United States. Having how they built their data center practice there. I mean, there's probably $120 billion or something worth of development in Loudoun County, Virginia. So when we had to have, and they passed a sales tax exemption on equipment in order to get people to be enticed to get there. You can't do that without public assistance. You can't do that without having everybody understand it. So we flew the guys from Loudoun County, the assessor of Loudoun County, town managers, I mean, those sorts of people. We flew them out here, put them in front of the assessor of Lake County, put them in front of different people around the state, and had them explain why it was important for Indiana to either pass sales tax exemption language on equipment and energy, or don't think about it so big. Don't think about having major companies be involved in what we're doing on that. So that having those people come in became essential to what we were doing, and it led to firming up any objections that we had, that we would receive from different people in the legislature and different people who might be opposed to it. The pivotal moment in the development, the first pivotal moment was the governor saying, I like this. The second one was having the mayor say, I like this. The third one was when we got the people from Loudoun County, Virginia, to basically come over and to help us explain to the legislatures the importance of sales tax exemptions on equipment and energy. The result was in May or something of 2019, we ended up with what I believe is the best data center tax exemption language in the country. That's the best example of public-private partnership. So I kind of led with the best part, but and that's why we're competitive today. The second message about Indiana, as I'm kind of going through this slide, is, man, are we good to deal with on permitting and bureaucracy. When you are, as project managers or people involved in construction and project support, developers, time is the enemy of everything you do. When you're putting your money together to do a project and you've got your MEP design is working and your GC is all there and everything's coming together, and the city council says, well, yeah, we can't take you up for 6 months. It kills projects. And I'm going to call areas out. Chicago, this happens to us repeatedly. Tampa, regularly. In London, this happened to it. Not Loudoun County, but London. In all these different, California, it kills projects. So as being a Hoosier, a lifelong Hoosier, and somebody that truly believes that this is the best place in the world to live, I go into projects where I get customers or developers and say, you just spent 6 months with your design team in Chicago, and you were told it was going to take you 3 months, but when it cleared up, it's going to take you 9 months. Why don't you come over into Indiana, where we're telling you, I'll put you in front of the decision makers, I'll put you in front of the IEDC people who are ready, willing, and able to help, and let's go. There's a development down on the river, the opposite end of the state, that's being run by a good friend of mine. His name is Devin Hilson Smith, who's just a fantastic leader in what he's doing. And I think he drives as much of the interest in his in his development down River Ridge as I do up here, by basically saying we have a simplified permitting and bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is eliminated. It's not minimized, it's eliminated in our public-private partnership. The third thing is Northwest Indiana is, union is, I know union's polarizing and all that. We're a right to work state and all that, but we have value. I don't care whether you're a member of Randy Palmetier's union in Northwest Indiana, or whether you're a member of the ABC in Southern Indiana, Central Indiana. I don't care. What it is we all share a certain value system in Indiana. We are Hoosiers. and we do our best. And the labor force here is not a me first labor force. So, and I understand this is a little afield from public-private partnerships, but I've never had, in all the places I've worked, and as Rich said to start with, I've been fortunate. I've worked in Southeast Asia. I've worked in China. I've worked in Australia. I had an office in Australia, and there, if somebody here's from Australia, did not have an Indiana first, did not have a project first. Everything they did was me first. It's like, all right, well, we're going to work 8 hours and we're going to stay at 8 hours. And at 8:01, we're going to go home. Labor force here in Indiana, and we can argue about that if you want, but labor force here in Indiana is not that way. I've never had a project in Indiana that the labor force hasn't been full of leaders, that the project managers haven't been full of leaders. It is easier to do jobs when you can say to Randy Palmentier here, say, Randy, I got to have a little extra help here this week, and we'll figure it out later. And he's like, Tom, no, it's not figure it out later. If you need it here now, let's go. So that's the way we get things done in Indiana, and it's just the way we've done things. Randy and his group, I don't know, I mean, they know that they can walk into the legislature and they may not win every issue, but they're going to win a bunch of it. They're going to be heard. That matters. Large university research and technology support is just invaluable. Purdue University Northwest has been a fantastic partner. Let me do an advertisement here for a second. So when you're driving on the toll road, heading into Chicago or heading away from Chicago, hopefully you're heading into Indiana from Chicago and you haven't spent any money in Illinois, but when you go there, if you look, just get over the Skyway on the toll road, and if you look to your left as you're heading into Indiana, you'll see a big old flagpole. That flagpole is the second largest in the state of Indiana. It's the largest in Northwest Indiana. It's the largest in all of Chicagoland. 164 feet. I'll talk about it in a minute. But we have a greenhouse attached to it. This flagpole is the pride of Tom McDermott's and mine, Eric Holcomb's. What we're doing on here is just trying to basically build a recognition for where we're going. Purdue University's support and their ability to continue with us and make it such that we can add them to our campus, add them to our flagpole. We're building a greenhouse at the site, which is part of the sustainability message. Those sorts of things make it easy for us to get projects done in Indiana. So without these elements, there would be no shot at a data center industry in our state. So big monster companies have begun looking at fiber possibilities in Indiana. I want to talk about that for 1 second. There's a bunch of different types of fiber, but let's skip over that. The P3 projects, two of the biggest P3 projects are the privatization of the toll road and the Skyway. The Skyway was actually an Illinois privatization, but the actually Indiana toll road has been a major positive. It made positive impressions about how we do things and how we move things. In my opinion, complicated tax schemes are not foreign to the IEDC. They will roll up their sleeves and they will do these super complicated projects and make it such that we can move through this stuff and create public-private partnerships. I'm going to skip over some of this stuff. Okay, so what is a data center? Let's talk about what a data center, why there's more data centers now than there ever has been in the history of the world. You used to listen to music, or at least I did. Some of these guys are going to be younger on here, but I mean that Elton John that Elton John 8-track there. Laura Genduso, who I went to high school with, her son is on this Zoom. I think we went to high school together. That's what we listened to back then. This is the way we listen to music. There was no reason for data centers on this because the music rested on that Elton John 8-track there, or in that cassette, or in that CD. This is the way we watched movies. 8 tracks. You want to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Put in that DVD there, I guess. That's the way we used to stuff. You want to take a picture? That's how we do it. You go down to the corner. You go down to little kiosk there and say, you know, can you develop my pictures? Come back in a week. Now, that's not what we do anymore. All that stuff, all that media rests in data centers. So Spotify, I don't know who has a Spotify here, but the Spotify that you have is data that's sitting in a data center. Pandora, whatever else, and that's all sitting there in a data center. Netflix, we just saw in the Super Bowl, Paramount launched their big new channel. I mean, obviously there's money in new channels. Prime, Disney, YouTube, all this stuff is ever expanding. If you want to listen to, you know, an Elton John song from the '70s, you don't put in your 8-track. You go to YouTube or you go to Spotify or whatever it is. This is how we share videos. I mean, this is how we share pictures. So all this stuff is in data centers. So this is a picture of ours. This is our first building. This is 105,000 square feet and ultimately 12 megawatts of mission critical data center. Eventually our campus will go out to 1 million square feet and have somewhere around 100,000 or 100 megawatts of power. That is a massive amount of power. We are rivaling everybody else in the industry and in the country at the size of what we're doing here. The phone in your pocket, everybody's got one. I would be surprised if a quarter or whatever of the people that are listening to this are probably doing that. It goes from your mobile app, from your phone, it goes up to a cell tower, and then it goes over fiber down to the network, and then it comes to a data center. It probably touches 5 data centers. If you're listening to this, you're probably on your mobile app, you're probably hitting 5 data centers to get here. And so our place is not just a storage place, but it also is we're connected. We're a mission critical data center, and all these industries, your text messages, the research, the security and your financial transaction, all that sits here. Today, these are where data centers are. There are over 7 million data centers. Now we undervalued the what's in the United States, but there are roughly 7 million data centers here that are globally today. That number is going to be something crazier. In 10 days, it'll be more. In 2 years, it'll be even more than that. How does Indiana compete with those places right there? One of the newest data centers in the world is right here. So this is our site. This is what our site looked like a couple weeks ago. All Indiana vendors, all Indiana labor, all Indiana design is in this data center. As we bust out, as we get bigger and bigger, and we add more and more parts to this, you'll see that this will go, the space beyond it. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but in the space on the other side there'll be more data center. There'll be in the back is the central utility plant, but this is a data center, and we draw water out of Lake Michigan and use it for cooling. If somebody's interested, we can go through it, and I can put somebody really technical and smart into it. You can see this is not an enhanced picture. You can see the state of Illinois in the background. That's actually the Sears Tower, or whatever, Bill Willis Tower, or whatever it is now. So we used to be at the former state line generating plant. This is an important thing for us because in the 1920s, Thomas Edison built, and this is all, I encourage you to go into Wiki or Google or whatever, and you can see the state line generating plant. It was a modern marvel at the time. Thomas Edison himself and a guy named Samuel Insull. I encourage you guys to look them up, because you'll find their stories to be very interesting. Everybody knows Thomas Edison. Very few people know the rise and fall of Samuel Insull. There's actually a movie out called The Current War, which, if you really want to get geeky about this stuff, you can see what the relationship between Thomas Edison and Samuel Insull. But it talks about DC versus DC current. But this plant, I'm actually sitting at it right now, was built by Thomas Edison for the purpose of creating the largest, most important energy generating plant in the world at the time. What we did is, as it was developed, it became the pollutants that it emitted became very unattractive, and so as time went on, it became literally public enemy number one for environmentalists and for people who were trying to preserve what we're doing. At the time it was built, nobody knew. Obviously, in the 1920s, we didn't understand global warming and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's somewhere in the 1950s when things started to get measured, it became this area, this particular plot of land, and the power plant that was emitting on it became literally public enemy number one. The EPA was formed on December 6, 1972. Then President Nixon, Republican, formed the EPA. At the top of the list of plants to be regulated was the State Line Generating Plant in Hammond, Indiana. So in 2012, it became impossible for this to be retrofitted and turned into something that it just didn't make sense to try to keep this thing going. So Dominion Energy at the time, working with ComEd, basically shuttered it. This is another example of our saying is we're turning this particular ground and part of Hammond, Indiana, from the old cloud, which is obviously the reference there, and into the new cloud, which is our 21st century green data center. We talked a little earlier about the importance of working with universities. So I'm going to get there's a bunch of people on this call that can talk a lot better with a lot more detail than I am. But there's servers and routers that sit inside our data center, and they emit heat. Obviously, we have to cool it down, but that heat also contains CO2 at a certain level. So one of the smart guys at Purdue came up with an idea of why don't we channel some of that heat, channel some of that CO2, and create a greenhouse. So we're working with Purdue University Northwest on creating a smart greenhouse. P&W has been a fantastic partner. What we're going to do is take some of the waste heat from our data center to help grow crops, do research. It's going to be, there's a robotics lab that's going to be in there. And they can quickly, because of the CO2 and other elements that are there, they can more quickly regulate the growth of crops and make it such that the robotics grouping and the teaching and the research can do things quicker and more efficiently in a better, more controlled environment. So, how do we do it? We would not be here, but I know I keep saying this, but for the fact that we took every element of the word public, broke it down, and made certain that we understood who our audience was in terms of the word public. I'm very proud of the fact, and I can talk at great length about it. We took no public agency, no government agency for granted. We didn't say, oh, it doesn't matter, the ID, we'll worry about Indiana Department of Environmental Management later. We brought them into the project. The DNR, Cam Clarkson, we brought them in immediately and said, we want you to know what we're doing here. We want you, every government agency at the state level, we met with, we contacted, we went through it with, we gave them plans. If they asked questions, we tasked somebody to do it. No, you cannot leave one detail. You're going to try to do a big project like this. You cannot leave one detail open to interpretation. Every question has to be answered, because in my experience on the state level, the low level, and on the county level, the public servants that we deal with in Indiana truly care. They're truly trying to get it right. They truly want to know the answers to their questions. And it's not that if you give them a chance to delay, they'll take it. if you give them a chance to, if you don't answer their questions, they're going to show up and they're going to answer the next file. And they're going to go pay attention to somebody else's project or something else. So what we did in order to drive our public-private partnership is to answer every question that everybody came up with, and almost be a pest to people and saying, okay, you have a question, you have 3 questions for us. Well, let's schedule a call 48 hours from now, and we'll give you a progress on our update. And then, being the kind of the guy who ran the thing, the managing member, I had to sit on every one of my people and say, if we don't have an answer to that question in 48 hours, then you better have a path to how we're going to do this, because we're going to respect every minute of every city councilman's time. We're going to respect the county council people in Lake County. We respected every minute of their time. So if we set a meeting to them and we had 3 questions on it, we'd set the agenda. And if we didn't have an answer to 2 of those questions, we darn well had a path to that. So you can't take 1 minute, one issue. You can't set one issue aside and act like it doesn't matter because we'll get to it later. I should have had this slide up earlier, because the county people were great. We got stuck at a moment, and we needed a quick capital infusion, and they got Tim Brown over there got us our paperwork. We had a meeting 2 days later. They ripped through it. We provided the collateral. They couldn't have been better. The city council in Hammond, they tasked us with so many questions and so many things to answer, and they held our feet to the fire on everything, but they made us better. Purdue has been, like I said, just been a fantastic partner. But the IEDC people and the governor's office, every time I see Governor Holcomb or talk to Suzanne Crouch today, her point is are you messing up my data center? How's it going? Do I have a data center industry? Are you hitting your and Tom McDermott's the same way. Are you guys hitting your requirements here? Everybody on this list has taken ownership in us, and you can have, if you want to try to do a public-private partnership, and that's fine, but if you don't make it such that all 3 of those governmental levels have a vested interest in you, then you're not doing anybody. You're doing a good job, and you get your deal closed, I suppose, and all that sort of stuff. But the ownership and the way that, and if you don't make it such that they feel vested in it, then you're not doing everybody any favors, because they represent the taxpayers. And if you get tax credits, we got all the tax credits I talked about earlier, and I'll talk about now. And the opportunity zones and the historically underutilized business zones, all those sorts of things. Those are not that's not my money. That's taxpayer money. And if you don't if you don't answer their questions and you don't treat it like you're treating with your own money, then you can get your deal done. But it's not right. It's not the way that you get the mayor of Hammond basically walking up to you and punching you in the chest and saying, hey, I heard your security out there let somebody through the other day. What are you doing, Tom? Which is literally what happened at one point. So I'm a little passionate about this. And so what you have here is a historic moment. This is the signing of House Bill 1405 in 2019. This is the moment that the data center industry, and honestly, I mean, I don't know if there's any legislators on here or whatever, but this is the moment where I truly believe that the data center industry went from being somebody else to building one in Indiana, went from being somebody else's responsibility to being my personal responsibility. The people in that picture, along with 146 other legislators and 24 other state office holders or whatever, basically said, all right, Tom, you've been telling us that you can build a data center if we give you these tax credits. Not tax credits, tax exemptions. If we give you these tax exemptions, can you build a data center? Was the question before. This is the moment where this is the put up or shut up part of this. This was the, Tom, we're giving you what you want. This is the pinnacle of a public-private partnership, because the governor and all these people are standing there and they're signing this stuff and they're saying, Tom, you told us this is a good idea. Don't make a mess. Go do something with this. So it's kind of big. I'm going to tear up, I guess. But So the other parts of this, we're designated opportunity zone, which I think everybody here knows what opportunity zones are. It's an investment vehicle created by the Trump administration that the governor had to designate some zones are. We were actually designated the #1 zone in the part where we were the first one on the list. I don't know what that means, but we were designated that early. Hub zones are a federal designation that means that we can get the feds to give us some federal tax credits in the event we get some in the event we need a little additional legislation. Economic improvement districts are a very useful tool. There's only been a handful of them in the state. Chesterton did one, Evansville did one, Valparaiso did one, I believe, or no, it was Portage. We just did ours the other day, literally not that long ago. It's a fantastic. I can go through it if you want, but I encourage you to Google it and read it for Indiana. If you're doing projects in Indiana, learn about economic improvement districts because they're a fantastic vehicle to get financed. CREED, IRTCs, their IRTCs were gone, but there's a replacement group on that. The revolving loan fund was part of the county, Lake County's assessment to us. Project Traverse is Purdue Northwest. But these were the initiatives that made it such that these were the actual enactment of all the work that we did and all the effort we put to try to explain to people that making these tax dollars or these future tax dollars part of our project made perfect sense. A couple facts about my data center or our data center. It's the second largest flagpole in Indiana. I love this flagpole. Tom McDermott and Eric Holcomb both basically required us to do it. It's not written into anything, but their point is Tom, go do that. You can literally see it if you're on a clear day. You could see it from I'm told, I haven't seen this, but you can see it from the Sears Tower. You can definitely see it when going up the toll road. I encourage, please give me a shout. You don't have to tell me anything, but give it a look, and because it's a source of serious pride for all of us. There's going to be weddings and it's a public park. We donated the park, but it's the largest flagpole in Indiana, and it sticks up toward Illinois, and it basically says, "Hey, we're here too." We remediated a polluted site. That's a picture of what it looked like in, I believe it was the 70s. IDEM has been a fantastic partner. Anybody who's afraid of IDEM, something to hide, in my opinion, and you can be critical of me for that, but we brought them in day one, minute one, and basically said, you guys need to be part of this. If you're not a partner in this, then shame on us. So some people from throughout the state know this better than others, but Lake Michigan is an unbelievably great resource. And I'm going over time, I apologize. But so what we did is we created a cooling plant. It's not technically a closed loop system. Some of you guys would understand that better than I do, but it's basically a closed loop system that takes water out of Lake Michigan, recycles it over coils, cools down some of our heat, and then puts it back in Michigan. There's nothing treated, but we use Lake Michigan water for cooling in and we're really happy about that. The industry, most people are trying to get to zero carbon, zero, and we're trying to be better about that. This is our premier effort to do that. So the result of this, and I will do this quickly. The result of all this is, this slide's a little bit small, but we can be competitive with Illinois. The long term is the savings. We can have a 10% savings over Chicago. If you're a data center, Ashburn, as I mentioned, Loudoun County, we're 6% cheaper than Dallas. We're 8% cheaper, and this slide basically goes through that. We can be less expensive because we have embraced, and we got all these public entities to start to help us. So we're able to pass the savings on and be competitive with them. Where there is no data center here, we can do that. NIPSCO has a major initiative to get to renewables. That's a little outside of what these slides are about, but at the end of the day, making it such that we have access to clean power is part of the future of where we go on our P3. Rich, I went longer. I apologize.
We have some time. I think we have about 10 minutes for some questions. In fact, I'd like to ask Dan Zelik from Calumet, the president there, Casey Adams, president of Central Indiana, and I think these gentlemen have a couple of questions. I'm going to monitor the Q&A mode for this event as well for questions from the audience. Dan, why don't we start with you for a question for Tom while we still have some moments here.
All right. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Tom. What a fantastic presentation and what an education it was on public-private partnerships OP3. I have a couple of questions. First, I want to congratulate you on a successful launch. I know that it's only been open for about a little less than 3 months since it's been open. In our role, though, as project managers, we also are business analysts. And when a lot of the senior project managers come to present capital projects to their companies in the executive board, a lot of those questions have to do a lot with tax incentives and savings. In other words, how to save money. So if we could go back to that total cost of ownership chart, it was very eye-catching to see that the typical data center cost by market shows the DX1 facility having a lower total cost of ownership. Basically, it's cheaper on rents, cheaper on utilities, total cost of hardware or leased hardware for software and servers, and the investment ROI over time looks extremely attractive. So with that, if I'm working at company X and I'd like to go ahead and propose, or we do an analysis on what our cost of ownership is for our data centers that we are currently either on-prem, or whether we want to look at maybe a possibility of moving over to DX1. How could we take advantage of where would we get started as far as looking at things like the industrial development grants or economic development incentives, anything to do on community revitalization, anything that maybe the IEDC here in Indiana could help us with? What would you recommend?
So let me kind of take the first part first, if you don't mind. First of all, Dan, on a personal note, I want to thank you for asking me to do this. I know I've been leaning on you about like what you've given me leadership on terms of what is actually going to be interesting and what would be drivel. So, and if you heard any drivel, that's my part. If you heard interesting stuff, it's because Dan coached me to go in the right direction. So the TCO model we have is, let me diagram a little bit. We're able to provide electricity at a cheaper rate than all these other places because for two reasons. First of all, NIPSCO is a good partner, but more importantly, the legislature and the governor signed legislation that made it such that that transaction is tax exempt. So if you pull out your electricity bill, and you see the line in there that talks about, I don't know, Indiana is 7.25%, I think, tax. We don't have to pay that. Data center providers don't have to pay that, and it's the biggest incentive that we have in order to get data centers, data center operators, and data center customers to come to Indiana, because we can just be competitive and less expensive. They don't have to pay tax on that transaction. So over Chicago, we immediately start with a 10% savings right off the bat in terms of electricity. The second part of that's one example of how to make this, how this public-private partnership has made this better. The other part of this is we're talking about going to how you can specifically go to work for for IEDC and for the energy consultants and for the energy groupings and the people that lobby on behalf of it. Industry by industry, I'll tell you how I did it. Is I went and I sat into the IEDC website and I read everything. I mean, literally read it from the homepage all the way to the end. Got it to the point that I understood every word of their website, and then had a buddy of mine who's smarter than me go read it and read every word of the website. then the two of us quizzed each other. So we were, so back in 2018, 2017, 2019, we knew as much about what was in that website as we could. And then we went to go see Devin Hills and Smith, and Mark Waskey and Jim Schellinger, and basically demonstrated that we weren't tourists, that we'd done our homework, and that we weren't there to charge them down on, to say, oh, there's a typo on page 7. I mean, what it was is to basically say, look, how do you use the headquarter whatever tax, how do you use that tax exemption with this tax? I mean, made it such that we could ask intelligent questions. And then the way I did it was basically say, we're only going to talk for an hour, but we're not going to talk for 61 minutes. But I'm going to demonstrate to you that I care and that I did my homework and that I'm not a tourist into this. So if you don't, in my opinion, they don't want their time to be wasted, because there's so many people coming here saying, give me tax credits, give me exemptions. If you can demonstrate that your project is real and that you've done your homework, you've got it done.
Thanks, Tom.
So if I quick follow up, so if we're serious, I'm sure that we could call someone over at DX, over at Digital Crossroad, maybe help us work it through some of the incentives if we were interested, if we wanted to go ahead and approach it.
It became and we can do that. If you ask, I'm not being evasive. I'm just trying to. If you give me questions, I will put my email address out there. There's a person in the world named Anthony Garcia. There's another person named Jeff Whitehead, and those guys are now up to speed on what's happening in 2021 versus what was happening then. I'm a little embarrassed to say I haven't kept up on it because I've been doing my thing, but we can definitely I can demonstrate what's there.
Thank you, Tom.
Our time is diminishing on questions. Casey, a quick one perhaps, and a quick answer, Tom. Depending upon the question, I guess.
Did anybody?
And then I'd like to get a couple from the audience.
Tom, did anybody ever give you the line, "There's no such thing as a green data center"?
Oh, it's funny because I just had there's a guy in the world, you can Google him. His name is Peter Gross. He was the founder of a company called Bloom Energy. He's kind of the Michael Jordan of the industry. And he may be on this, if he's on this, hi Pete. But if I just had a conference with him. I was with them earlier. We were on a thing earlier today, and he was talking about how Microsoft has done an initiative to get to, they want to replace all the carbon that they've emitted. They want to do that, but going back to the beginning of their company. I'm like, Pete, that sounds insane. He's like, we've got plans to do it. We've got batteries. New batteries are coming up. New ways to use waves. He said, so Tom, think about it in terms of the next 70 years, not the next 7. That I agree with you. I don't see how it happens. I mean, how much carbon's displaced because you're going to build a battery, and for them battery saves next to nothing. But they're telling me that they can do it.
Very good. Hey, Tom, from our audience, trying to promote this question here is, why was Hammond selected? And a related question, what were some of the criteria, the factors? There we go. It's up on the screen now. What were some of the factors that went into choosing Hammond?
So if I can get back to my slides, I can show you. There was a slide in there that showed the data center. There was a slide in here that showed the data center. I don't know. It's in here someplace. So Hammond is unique in the sense that it is right on the border. So as everybody knows, as everybody knows, light has physical properties, and fiber is light. So as the mecca of data centers in the Midwest, maybe in the whole country, is at 350 East Cermak in downtown Chicago. It's a big deal. It's the heart of connectivity. So you want to be as close to that as you can be, and you want to be on fiber lines. And so I can go, but at the end of the day, our western border is literally the state line, not figuratively, literally the state line. So you being 13 fiber miles from 350 East Cermak is an advantage because everybody else in the western suburbs of Chicago, everybody else in the western suburbs of Chicago is 26 miles out. So it takes White Light longer to travel 26 miles than it does 13 miles. So Hammond was the perfect place. Additionally, if you can see the screen up there, you can see on the bottom there. Those are that's fiber. That we view it as fiber conduit. Everybody else looks at it as railroads. In the 80s, a guy named Philip Anschutz put up a bunch of railroads and put fiber conduit on there. So you want to be as close to the fiber as you can be on the water, and there. The next data centers. We looked at Gary really hard. We're trying to participate in something in Gary. I'd love to. Devin's project down in I think it's called River Ridge down in Jeffersonville is a fantastic project. Kevin Smith has one in South Bend. That's a great project. I believe the next data center it is going to be located somewhere where two interstates intersect, and there's a massive amount of fiber, and they're going to have to get a concession with water people. So I don't know where that would be in Indianapolis.
Fascinating. Yeah, fascinating. Tom, thank you very much. I was just considering my own personal data center that I have. Turns out I have 200 of these in my attic. And we want to acknowledge all of our speakers and show our appreciation for them. So Casey, if you can prepare that. So I got this nice container here, and then inside it, Casey, can you show on screen? Inside we have the certificate of appreciation for you, Tom.
Oh.
Well, it's the best we can do electronically in COVID days and the like. So we do really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your knowledge and great experience here on private-public partnerships and their importance. Thank you so much. And we do have other questions. If you don't mind, we may try to forward them along to you via email.
Fantastic. I will segment them, and you'll hear back from somebody in the team. I'll create a whole different thing, and we can start a chat. I'd love to be involved with whatever you guys are doing.
Terrific. Thanks again so much, Tom. Take care.
Thank you.
Best of to you.
Bye-bye.
All righty, gang. We're going